welcome to episode 6. This is episode 6, y'all.
Wow.
How's it going? How's everyone doing? My name is Jose. Welcome to the Bewildered Herd podcast. So glad to see everyone here. Well, I can't really see you, but I can see my two lovely friends, Edgar and Carlos. Guys, how are you guys doing? You guys
I'm good,
doing,
sir.
yeah? You guys hanging on okay? Yeah?
Pretty good.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. I think it's been at the time of this recording, it's been almost a week since I talked to you. No, more than a week, huh? I think then we talked. It's been really needed. Again, really quick, we can do some intros. So let's start with Carlos.
What's up? My name is Carlos, and I'm training to be a physicist.
Oh, nice.
Not a physician, which would be something useful, but a physicist.
A physicist. And actually, I learned this week, what kind of physicist do you consider yourself? A theoretical physicist or an experimental one?
Right now, I think I'm straddling the middle, and I think that's like maybe too generous to call me like in the middle between theory and experiment.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do stuff with pencil and paper, but it's just like regurgitating what other people have done to really get a solid foundation with that to see if maybe possibly in the future I could contribute to it.
Okay. Sweet. Well, thank you for that, Carlos. And then next we have Edgar.
Yo, what up, guys? I'm Edgar. I go by Elo. I'm a professional engineer, a soccer enthusiast. For those of you that follow soccer, San Diego has a new team. They beat the defending champs on their first game away in LA, which is like my hometown. So I'm a little conflicted on which team to cheer for. And then I invited my family for LAFC against San Diego soccer on March 22nd. And I'm thinking, which jersey should I buy? Should I get the LAFC one or should I get the SDFC?
You should be that first person to create that half and half jersey. You know, there's always that
Oh yeah,
person.
yeah,
There's
yeah. Because I'm like,
always
what am I gonna dress my son? Like he's all San Diego. I have the LA roots, but like he doesn't know, right? He only knows San Diego.
right.
So maybe I'll be LA, maybe he'll be San Diego, and then that way like people won't mess with us. But yeah, they tied at home. Did you guys see the game?
No,
Boring.
but I didn't see the score. I was trying to find the score, but I didn't
Yeah,
get
it
it.
was 0-0, dude. It was just like dude, it was like intense. I would say like 60s, no, like 70% domination by San Diego. They just couldn't score. And
Did you see it live or on
yeah,
TV?
no, not live, not in the stadium, but like live on TV. But yeah, dude, they're really good actually. They just couldn't score. We'll see. I predict that they're gonna do. They'll probably get to the playoffs. So yeah, San Diego was lucky that they got a good team from like the very start. So I'm looking forward to that match when it comes.
Well, they got a lot of money backing that shit up, right? They got like a
Well,
Egyptian billionaire and who else, dude? Some fucking
it relates to today's topic.
The
That
Saquon guy, right?
yes,
yeah.
dude, the first ever Native American owned team, the Siquan Nation owns it. So
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool.
And not just them, but like a band of Indian tribes. So
Wow.
yeah. So it's super cool.
That's
That
cool.
yeah, you could tell right off the bat, man, they're gonna be successful. Like they're doing everything right.
Oh, that's cool. And I think San Diego really needs something. It's been
Yeah,
10
because in
years.
baseball, football, like, give him something, please.
Yeah.
As I didn't introduce myself, I'm Jose. Oh, I think I did, but I'm a big Padres fan, but I used to be a Padres fan when they weren't that good. So now I'm just like, cool. And I see people really get into it. I'm like, nah, man.
Wait, they're
But
good?
yeah, they're good. They're really good.
Not
Yeah.
as they're not championship like LA, but yeah, they're getting better. One day.
I plead the fifth on that. I don't. I choose not to go into that
I
topic.
actually think their soccer team would be champions before the Padres. My prediction.
I can see that. I can see it. I can see it. Do you think they'll be champions before the Chargers?
Chargers? I don't know. I think They have a lot of money invested. They might be champions soon.
Dude,
Wait, no, dude. I'm thinking the Rams. Sorry, not the. Yeah, no, Chargers. They have the
He's
bad
thinking
luck.
the other LA team,
Yeah, the other.
not the one that left San Diego for LA. That one
uh-huh.
doesn't even fathom in his imagination. He's thinking the LA team.
Yeah.
We've been going through that. It's been, it's almost been 10 years since that. Can you believe that? 10
Since they
years
left?
since they left.
Really?
Almost
Do
10
you
years.
still feel it as if it was yesterday?
A little bit, sometimes a little bit sometimes. But I'll tell you what. The relationship with football is different now. So like I don't watch it like to be like, yeah, really into it. It's like, oh, cool football, and just change it. It's so funny. It's funny how that works. But I don't want to get into a lot of the topics of sports because it's a lot of friction. So let's talk about something more peaceful, which is Edgar's topic for today.
I don't know.
Edgar,
Or
you
peace.
have the topic of the day, so if you're ready, you can go ahead and start it up.
Okay. Yeah, I just figured that since it's in the news a lot with this new administration, DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are under attack. So us being part of that group, I figured, we should probably talk about it and kind of talk about our experiences growing up. And yeah, I mean, we were kind of talking about before this that it actually does have real world repercussions, and maybe we can shed some clarity on the topic today. Okay, so it's coming and showing up in several different places. So as we all know, the president is kind of like the CEO of the country, and he gets to issue executive orders that affect anyone directly under his purview, right? So the first one that he issued was ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing under this executive order. So this one is pretty much just terminating any DEI program that was created before he took office. So that means that any department that had anything to do with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility too? Really? Whoa. I had not read that one. Really? Dang. Is gonna be terminated. So that was one. So that's like under his purview, right? Departments, agencies. The next one is specific for the US Department of Education. So now this is like affecting not just any agency, now it's anyone that gets funding or that works with the government. So that this could affect like state schools and whatever. So they're trying to get rid of DEI programs, like let's say in California, where we have those, by threatening to pull any funding from those schools. And so they created this portal right here that anybody could go to, and you can report suspicions of DEI in any education system. So you just go here, you put your email, you put which school, where's the zip code, and then just write out like why you think it's violating these DEI executive orders. So those terms are like kind of hard to describe. Like, what the heck is DEI? So I just looked up what is DEI from University of Virginia, Department of Psychology. So they define diversity as the presence and acceptance of differences that may include race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, nationality, culture. Equity is different from equality. Equality provides the same resources, opportunities, and treatment for all people without accommodating their backgrounds and resources. Equity, on the other hand, provides everyone with the unique resources and opportunities they need to reach an equal outcome. Whereas equality means providing equal access to everyone regardless of the differences in need, equity means recognizing that not everyone starts from the same place, and thus adjustments are made to address this imbalance. So if you look at this picture here, this is equality, like everybody gets the same start, although some people have an advantage to reach that apple, versus equity realizes that we all start from different resources and backgrounds, so not everybody has the same assets and resources to reach that apple. So let's help them out a little bit so that we can all grab an apple. That's equity. And then lastly, inclusion is the outcome of a welcoming environment that incorporates diverse perspectives and equitable practices to ensure all people participate in decision making. So this pretty much means like, we realize that we're different, but let's make you like welcome to the party. All right. And then why does this matter? I'm going to talk about the last portion of this because it's been on the news and they try to blame DEI, right? So this leads to some phenomena called imposter syndrome. So what is imposter syndrome? It was first coined by psychologists Pauline Rode and Clance and Suzanne Ims to describe the internal experience of doubting your abilities. Some have described it as a constant fear of being exposed as a fraud, which can present itself through questions such as, why is everybody smarter, more accomplished, more put together than me? When will they realize I'm not as competent as them? Do I even belong here? Why should I be here when others from my community could benefit from this and are probably more worthy of being here than I am? When does this come up? Again, according to Stanford, this is an article from Stanford. So this comes up when there's systemic discrimination and bias, including bias that is racial, xenophobic, gendered, etc., can create environments that induce imposter syndrome. Academia can be a hostile environment for minorities where microaggressions, stereotypes, and exclusive modes of teaching and learning are some of the triggers for imposter syndrome. Additionally, the culture around elitism, prestige, and academic institutions can also cause these feelings. Therefore, simply being around other high achievers can create an elite institution that can cause imposter feelings. Who experiences it and what is the impact? While Clance and Emmons' research concluded that women were especially vulnerable to experiencing imposter syndrome, other research suggests that minoritized people of different gender, sexual orientation, class, and race and ethnic backgrounds also frequently tend to experience imposter feelings. So yeah, the discussion I wanted to have was, I guess, what do you guys think about DEI? Should we have it? Should we get rid of it? And then growing up, did you guys ever feel imposter syndrome? And if so, do you think DEI would have helped it or made it more difficult? And like, I want to get your take on DEI in general and whether it's a good idea or not. So I don't know who wants to take it away.
And I can start. I mean, I could say right here amongst you and people in general that I struggle with imposter syndrome to this day. Like, it's not something I've overcome. What you're reading, what you read about the description of imposter syndrome sounded was like, man, someone's in my fucking head sometimes or something. And so that's something that's ongoing and that I've accepted, and kind of accepting it takes the edge off of it. And then going back to the question of should we have DEIA, accessibility?
Yeah.
I think it's a no-brainer that, yeah, like the richness of ideas produced and pursued is only amplified when you have diverging viewpoints. If you want to do the same old shit people have been doing, then keep people who have been doing the same old shit doing it. Who is it? In the sciences, the monolith used to be, to some extent, largely still is, white American men. Right? And this brings me to another point. Why do we have a need to have something like DEIA in the first place? Because I think this is why the government fears it and went after it. And so with that, I open up the space for comments from you guys to see what you guys think.
Let's start with the topic of imposter syndrome, because I think that one is very, very strong in me.
Hey, speaking about imposter syndrome, I think this is related.
Okay.
When we were in calculus, taking differential calculus, and he showed on the board the fucking x squared and expected everyone to call out what the derivative was, and you and I looked at each other like, what the fuck? Like, how do you do that? How do you get that?
I
Everyone
think
else was
that,
rolling their eyes, and you and I were like, what?
yeah. And so actually, so for the audience, so we all went to college, And Carlos and I actually went to school in the south part of San Diego, and a very lower income communities. And we were top notch. I think we were top notch in our school. But when we hit college, it was like it was
Yeah,
something
then we
else.
fucking met people like Edgar over here who had already taken the fucking 2 years of required science and engineering math classes before even having fucking stepped in college.
Right. And so and that story, I think that is the perfect example of what an imposter syndrome was. Because our first calculus teacher, he said, "All right, so we want to take the derivative of x squared. The answer is," and everyone in unison said 2x.
He even
And I
like waved
remember
his hand.
and I remember feeling inside like, because here's another thing, like I'll come back to the imposter syndrome, but when I was in high school, I never took calculus. And they had this thing where they would wear a dot whenever they hit calculus BC, because it was like the top notch school. And I would always ask him, "What's the dot, dude?" And they're like, "I can't tell you." And that bothered me, because it almost
A
made
what?
it seem like
What they wear?
it was like a random blue dot, like like those dots sometimes, like así como de like plastic. It's just a random dot, just a
Okay,
stupid
okay.
dot, a plastic dot. And they would always tell you. You would ask them, "What does it mean?" And they would say, "Don't worry about it. You can't know." And it was only for the calculus BC people. And I was so mad. I was like, one day I'm gonna learn calculus. I'm gonna come back and show you guys I can do whatever you guys do. But I remember that when I experienced that in college, the first thought inside of me, I was like, how did they know that? What did I miss? What didn't I know? And it messed me up for the whole class. And it was so funny because Carlos was thinking the same thing. And so when we were walking along, he was the one who asked me, "Hey, do you know how they got that 2x?" "I do not know, man. Do you know?" "No." And we were floored, man.
Yeah, so that must have been like scary, right? Because everybody else felt like it was so easy, and you guys were like, "What the?"
It was super scary. It was kind of like, I don't belong here. Like, what did I miss? Like,
So we left the class without understanding how he took the derivative of 2x?
no,
That's fucking
yeah,
embarrassing.
yeah. And we're like, what? We were super confused.
But you guys
But
were sitting next to each other.
together, yeah.
Okay, you know that probably helped you because you're like, well, at least this motherfucker doesn't know it either. You guys would have felt even more if it was by your. You would have been like, what the, like, dude, you would have freaked out more.
But you know what? And it's funny you say that, because I think that's what enables the imposter syndrome to continue to grow. Like, I think when you put yourself in an environment that you're not familiar with, like say a college setting, a seed kind of starts planting. And every little experience that you have like that, it just allows it to grow. So I think eventually all of us three, we kind of diverted on our engineering sides. And I did electrical engineering, and there was a lot of things when I was just kind of like, I don't know. But like you said, I like in calculus, I at least had Carlos next to me. In these electrical engineering classes, I had no one. And
You know, I kind of regret changing to structural. I went in as
why?
an electrical engineer. We could have
Yeah,
got all the way, dude. That
yeah,
would have been.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? But now that I became like, now that I got my higher degrees and I'm working in the field, as I look back, I'm like, dude, this thing was easy. I mean, not easy, but it wasn't too hard to comprehend. But it was just kind of like that. The imposter syndrome, I see it like it's like this fear that just kind of like it just paralyzes you. It really paralyzes you, and it stops you from growing.
What did you guys do to compensate the being at a disadvantage? Like, did you guys go to tutoring? What'd you guys do?
What's that place called? Oasis?
Oasis.
That
What's always
really helped us out, man. It was basically DEIA,
that's
but
what I'm getting at.
before it was even a thing. So
Right.
UCSD, I guess, was picking up on trends, and they were probably realizing that they were losing like underrepresented minorities in quotes in like STEM and engineering. And so they probably knew that they had to impart a support system for us to thrive because we came in with certain deficiencies, right? You mentioned, Hoser, that you and I went to schools in the South Bay of San Diego that weren't necessarily the best. And so we received basically tutoring. It kind of felt like high school. I really enjoyed it. Small classes with a teacher or a tutor going over the topics that were synchronous with the classes that we were covering too. So they were in lockstep going on. And it was just studying, right? Because at that age, I could speak for myself, I didn't know how to study. And I didn't realize that studying would work. I thought that going back to the 2x example, if I didn't pick up on something like that the first time, and I wasn't meant to pick up on it.
Oh, all right. So like this brings me to my point that okay, so you guys were at disadvantage because you went to like lower income schools in high school where they didn't teach calculus. Everybody else did, right? They went to more schools that had better resources. So this DEI program, Oasis, that you guys went to, helped you guys compensate for not having that head start that everybody else had.
Yeah,
So do you guys feel that that's unfair? Because the argument against DEI is that they're helping you guys. They're spending money to help you guys when they're not helping these other guys. So do you guys think that it's unfair to everyone else in that class that you guys got that help?
I
I
don't
mean, I
think it's
think it's
about
no, dude. Like,
fairness. I don't think it's about fairness.
yeah.
It's about like randomly. If a person needs
Okay, I
help,
took the class, right? It doesn't, not only does it not bother me, but I'm happy for you guys that you got the help because I want you guys
yeah,
to succeed too. What the heck?
exactly.
We're all buddies, man.
Like I don't think it's about fairness. It's kind of like, hey, there's people who are gonna need that they're gonna
Extra
need that
help.
help.
Yeah.
I think in that definition, that equity part, that's really important. In that picture you showed, where everyone has a different like a
Don't we
step.
all, shouldn't we all get the apple?
Exactly. And I think we in a way it was equity in our sense, right? We had the
Yeah.
little oasis, but at the same time we were all equal in the sense that we had office hours. Now, say for example, I there were some office hours I didn't go at the beginning, and it hurt me, and that was on me, and I had to learn through that. But like programs like Oasis, it really did help me.
Oh, question. So this Oasis program, did it discriminate? You have to be brown to go to it, or like
Oh
anybody
no
could go
no,
show up?
not anyone could go to it.
There was a, there's
But it was targeting you guys because you're the one that actually needs the help, right?
I don't even know how I found out about it.
It was offered. It was given to
Summer
freshmen
Bridge people?
and summer bridge people. So there was people who actually they like there was this program they offered and they started from the beginning and they went there, right?
Okay, so I think we should give some context on what Summer Bridge was. It's
Okay.
basically a way for incoming underrepresented minorities at UCSD to come and mingle for I don't know how long, some
For
time.
like 5 weeks or something.
5 weeks?
Four
Are
weeks.
you serious? Damn. So
Because
anyway,
it
they
was
come, they mingle,
it
they
was
meet
more than
each other.
school. It was like community.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I felt. Did I take that opportunity? No. Did you, hoser? No. Why? Because we were fools. Honestly, because you met people who went to Summer Bridge, they already had an established community. Oh, I met that person there, blah 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 blah, and they were more aware of what the university had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you and I came
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I'm in San Diego, so whatever.
Yeah. So I would say that Summer Bridge was more of a DEI program than the Oasis, because the Oasis was actually there for everyone. It just happened to be that the ones who mainly took it were the people who from that came the minority groups, right? Um, but I think it was offered to everyone, it was offered to everyone.
Okay, now the question that I find interesting is why we need those programs in the first place. It's like why has there been a recognized need that those programs were offered to a certain group of the population?
I just told you because you guys didn't. I had calculus and you didn't. But I want you guys to succeed too. So you need the
But
extra help.
it's
Uh,
beyond that. It's beyond that. Both our high schools offered calculus.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Both of them offered
Both our high
calculus.
schools offered calculus and AP classes, and mine even had the IB, the International
IB.
Baccalaureate.
They had the IB program.
Yeah. The reason is why didn't I take calculus in high school? Because I came from fucking middle school in Tijuana, and they didn't give me a math evaluation test. So they assumed I'd never seen algebra before, And so they put me in algebra. And because I was dumb, I would put my head down and sleep and wouldn't pay attention and didn't realize that I could have been advancing my acquisition of mathematical knowledge. So that's why I didn't take calculus.
Now, I had my schooling here. I didn't know that I needed to take calculus for college. Matter of fact, they just put me on a track, and I followed that track until one of my friends in high school said, "Are you gonna go to college?" And I was like, "Well, that's what I want." And then they told me community college, and I was like, "No, I want to go straight to university." He's like, "Oh, you need this route." That's the other thing. Certain schools, they kind of prepare you for that path, and it's kind of like you hop on that one and you take it. But if you don't know, I could have stayed in basic math from all 4 years in high school and be all hopeful like, oh, I'm gonna go to college. It's like, no, son, you don't never took an AP class. You know, oh, I want to be an engineer. No, you never took calculus.
What we're saying now is fine.
So-
We're
So
talking about
the
individual experiences. But what I really
yeah,
want to
right now
get
we're
at is why they're afraid of DEIA, particularly the DEI. It's because we're here for a reason. We're here for a reason. The three of us are of Mexican descent. If it would have been up to our parents, they would have had a happy life in Mexico. The weather's nicer over there. The food is better over there. All your family's over there. We don't want to come somewhere you're not wanted by some sectors of the population. But there are economic necessities, histories that have a strong weight on the present that make life in Mexico more difficult to live. I'll just leave it at that. And so, for whatever reasons, from different part of Mexico, Aguascalientes, Zacatecas, Sinaloa, City of Mexico, our parents went north and went so north that they got to the United States, however it is they got, and we were born here. I recently learned a term called anchor baby. And I was like, oh shit, that's me. That's an anchor baby. I don't know if you guys are aware what that term is.
A what?
Anchor baby.
it's
Like,
like
como-
immigrants that immigrants that come here and they have a baby because of the Constitution that if you're born here you're a citizen. So therefore it helps their case to like for them themselves to become citizens too and stay here. Which Trump is trying to get rid of, by the way, the
Right.
right to being born
Right.
here and being a citizen, right?
And so my point is that these people cannot stand to look at themselves in the mirror and know what they are based on what they've been. These people are afraid that we start connecting the dots and saying the reason you have DEI is because you've gone to the elsewhere, destabilized whole societies for your economic imperative and profit. And now that these societies that you've disabled are coming home and knocking on the door and asking for an equal opportunity, you're slamming the door in their face. This is what they don't want us to think. This is what they don't want us to know, right? So what do? They preemptively shoot the fucking duck right in the head and get rid of it. I think this is what they're afraid of.
What do you mean they? Who's they? Are you talking about like
I'm talking about the ruling
new
class.
government, or are you talking
Yeah.
about the general population that's against DEI?
I'm talking about the really specialized class that is in charge of
Oh, okay.
implementing the actions of the government, like Doge, like Elon Musk.
Yeah, okay.
Elon Musk in particular. I think, he'd probably like to think of himself as like a fucking self-made man. The truth is, the dude's dad was already fucking covered in fucking money, right? He had some fucking like emerald mines in South Africa with some fucking engineer with some business stakes here and there. Gave him about 28,000 fucking in cash so he could go establish his fucking business when he was just starting out. The dude is not self-made. Comes from privilege. Not only does he come from privilege, he comes from apartheid South Africa, right? The dude was an apartheid baby. For those that do not understand what apartheid means, it means essentially a society that's segregated by more by race than anything, right? Fucking South Africa during the 80s had beaches that were for white people, beaches that were for black people, right? So that's the kind of society this motherfucker grew up in. He doesn't want to see him being emblematic of the oligarchy, of the ruling class, of people with real power. They don't want to see.
Why does this one have fireworks?
They don't want to see how they got their privilege. In essence, these people got their privilege at the cost of many. And this is what they don't want us to talk about, I think.
Okay, all right. So that's the elite ruling class. Yeah, I mean, just in general, they don't want people to be educated, to get along, unity, because you know, it could destabilize their fucking oligarchy, right? But for the other people, like the general public that's against DEI, I think at least what's been sold to them is that it's not fair. Is that we're being hired, like, dude, like me, I'm in my position because of my skin color, and that's it. And Jose, you're in your position because of your skin color. You were hired because of that,
I
not
mean,
because of your.
you have to have a boogeyman always, and you have to have a cohesive narrative of what makes the nation state, right? And like how you fit into that. I'm talking, I imagine you're saying like these other people, maybe white, rural, middle
Yeah, yeah, I'm talking
to
about like just people that are against it in general because they've been told that it's a misconception that like
right. So the
DEI
system,
is hurting them
right.
somehow, right?
But the system is hurting them. And that's what they don't want them to realize as well. Is that it's not that we're the boogeyman and that we're taking their jobs and that we're sidelining them.
Exactly. That's
Is
what they're
that
being told. That
is
we're
that
taking their jobs
right?
because of our skin color.
It's the economic system that's screwing them over. And rather than point the bullseye to fucking Twitter, X, Apple, Facebook, you name it.
All the shit that they're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. Aim the fucking
Don't look
bullseye.
over here. It's these
Aim the
motherfuckers.
exactly. Aim the bullseye to the lowest hanging fruit, to something that's easy to take care of, to the most vulnerable. In fact, they're so vulnerable that you could just fucking almost like ship them out the country, right? That's what you put the bullseye.
So my point is that I wanted to make this personal because I really do think that it's a misconception that like we're stealing their jobs because of our skin color. But in reality, DEI doesn't even like all it did was just help you guys because you didn't have calculus and like there was just a program that you can go that anybody could go so that you can learn calculus. But the people that went were the ones that didn't have the resources to begin with, right? So how the hell is that unfair? Like that's not hurting anybody in any way. If anything, it's just helping so that we can all be successful and we can all achieve.
Does affirmative action fall under DEA?
Yeah, yeah. It's the same shit, dude. Like you're not replacing qualifications. Like you still have to be good to go to college. Like otherwise you wouldn't have graduated, Hoser. Like
Yeah, yeah. I
dude,
mean,
Carlos is getting a PhD. Like what the fuck?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So
but yeah,
can I say
and
my
yeah, sure,
imposter
sure,
syndrome?
sure,
All
sure.
right, so my imposter syndrome, I mean, I've had so many, but like my most recent one is when I became senior engineer. Senior engineer basically means I'm going to become a supervisor of like 8 engineers, 8 to 10. I'm going to have a higher level of responsibility, represent my function in a higher capacity, and yeah, just more responsibility in general, right? But when they first approached me and they were telling me like, I would make a good candidate for being a senior engineer, my first thought was like, me? What the fuck? Like I do not look first look at me, dude. Like I don't look like the senior engineers that are mainly the ones that I see. And I'm a little bit younger too. Like, dude, are you sure? But then yeah, then I became and like it's all good now. But looking back, the funny thing is that I'm actually the only one or maybe one of very few that part of my master's program. First of all, I have a master's degree, which other like a lot of the other ones do not. And part of my master's degree was a program on how to be a supervisor and manager of an engineering organization. So I'm actually very fortunate that I went to my master's program and I actually got training to be in the position that I am right now versus all these other guys that are like in the same position. They don't have that training. So I'm actually the only one that my fucking degree says that like I could do it. And yet I was doubting myself the whole time, like thinking like, yeah, I do not look like those people and I don't know if I should be the one that, has these high level projects or whatnot. But anyways, I'm doing really good. Like, my projects are on TV and
That's really cool. I think kind of going back to what Carlos was, and even what you were asking, Edgar. So why are people so against DEI? I think no one likes to remember a lot of their past, right? I think there's a lot of history which is really not comfortable to hear, right? And I think in some literature, it's like a reminder of what certain people did in the country, right? And I don't think it's they don't.
You're talking about white guilt?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think I don't know if that's the term, but it's like, for example, slavery, right? It was not a fun time. It was not great. It was not good. It was not. It was not a. It was a dark period in our country, but it was something that happened in the country. We can't deny that, right?
And some people
It's
would
like
like to deny it or at least sugarcoat it.
they would. Some people would want to, but it happened, right? We can't change that, but we can change whatever's moving forward. But I think, because I don't think about the connecting the dots. I think people already connected the dots. I think with the amount of information we have, a lot of people have connected at least enough dots to kind of say, hey, that's this, you know, not everything, but enough dots to kind of paint a good picture of what's going on. You know, I think it's just a reminder of where your past is coming from. But I think that's okay, because from that we can learn. I mean, look at Germany. I mean, they have memorials of the Holocaust, right? And it's just kind of to remember.
They're not a good example, man. Germany is not a good example. They could have all the Holocaust memorials they want now, but
But
today actively funded and abetted a genocide happening today. So they're a double standard nation state, just like every other nation state is corrupt.
okay. But my point is this. My point is that people don't like to get reminded of a lot of their past. Like an alcoholic, right? An alcoholic does not like to get reminded after they get sober. They don't like to get reminded about where they came from. However, I think I've learned recently that, you know, you can use that experience, especially to kind of like to be able to move forward, like more successfully.
That's a very good point you make, because I feel collectively the people you've been talking to who prefer to forget the past could learn a lot from that statement. Because if you don't know where you've been, like, how do you know where you're going? And how do you improve on the errors that you've done in the past if you don't even
Yeah.
recognize?
Yeah,
It's in the
I see it. I personally see it from that, like, a Christian point of view. You know, when you become Christian, you die. The statement is you die to your old self and you become a new creature. However, that old self is always kind of creeping up on you. It's always kind of like like reminding you, kind of trying to bring you back. But the point is, with this new life, you get to live a life that's different, right? Like following Christ. But the idea is you can't just deny where you came from, because in a way, from where you came from, that's kind of what you show. Like, hey, I was here, but this is where God brought me out of. And it's kind of like, wow, like you see the work in God in a very similar way. In the country, you can kind of see like, hey, this is where we were, but this is now where we at. And wow, you can see how much we've moved forward. You know what I mean?
I gotta push back against that a little bit, because currently religion is being used as a tool to kind of mobilize a large sector of the population in this current administration. And I was just reminded of that today or yesterday, in which I think there's like an open cabinet meeting or something that the Trump administration has, and someone is like holding a prayer. And where I'll apply the pressure is that it's not God that brought you to wherever it is you are today, poser, but it's you and your actions and your work and your effort. How you find the wherewithal to do that, you can invoke wherever you want. But at the end of the day, it's your actions, your hours of work that have got you to where you are.
But I know what Who's saying. Like he's saying that by getting rid of DI, we're essentially going backwards, and I agree with them, dude. Like, imagine we all gave an example of imposter syndrome. Yeah, we had some help, right? Like from these programs. Now imagine, like, dude, my kid, the other kids that are like were like us, like they're gonna have even more imposter syndrome, but less resources to overcome. Like, dude, it's gonna be so bad for them, man.
But I think this is where those who took advantage of DEI can come in. I mean, okay, fine. There's no DEI. I think maybe we're smart enough, so now we can figure out ways to still bring these kids up, these new generations up, potentially bring them up with currently what's going on. It's like the way I see it. It's like you need to cross a river, but now it's like, oh, there's no bridge. Oh, no, I can't cross. No, there is a way.
Yeah,
There's
it's just gonna be,
enough smart people now that can,
it's gonna
that
be,
have gone back to these schools that can help these students also come
of
out of it.
course, it's gonna be harder.
It's gonna be harder,
Yeah,
but
but
Yeah,
we can't go back to what we had before because they took it away, right? They took it away really fast and they're actively dismantling it. I think sometimes you need to fight fire with fire. I mean, what these people don't want is they don't want an honest conversation of why we had DEI in the first place, right? They don't want to be reminded of the privilege that they have and how they went about getting those privileges, right?
yeah, but now it's gonna be even harder. Like, with this, I mean, they're gonna take it away from the textbook. Like, you're not gonna learn about
I
fucking
mean,
slavery.
but we don't publish textbooks, obviously, right? But we could have conversations in which at least we start saying what's true, what we know to be true, right? And that is something that should be covered under the freedom of speech, which they love to invoke when it benefits them in certain situations. We're gonna say.
I actually had a question. Cause you actually brought up something. You said the privilege, right? And I was thinking right now about the calculus situation, right? And Edgar, unlike us, Edgar, you actually did have a really fine calculus education in high school, right? Do you ever feel bad for receiving that education
Why
and
would
maybe
he
not
feel bad
others?
about that?
Why would he, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
so I
like
think so with that, it's like I feel like kind of like what I was saying, like how there's guilt of like, oh, you came from a background that did this, and that, and then you also have this other privilege. Like I think to a certain extent, don't can't you just own it? Can't you just say, yeah, that's what I was, that's what I had,
But
you know?
that was another DEI program that they selected like a few. Like, I mean, I was one of very few that looked like me in that class, right? But there was a couple other that they picked and like, yeah, you guys could like fucking make it or whatever. So, I mean, I think for that program.
Yeah, but like for example, now, like say your kid, right? Your kid's gonna potentially go. He can potentially go to a private school, charter school, better school, maybe that than you ever went. And so if you went to a better school than you did, do you think he should feel bad
Getting the education?
for
No,
getting that education? No, right?
no, because I got helped, and now I think I'm equal to like everybody else. Now I have the resources and the money to like help them out, right? It's because the DEI shit is with the assumption that everybody starts equal, but we don't. I've always talked about this. We're playing Monopoly, dude. Like some people start with fucking $1 million, and then we start with negative. Like our fucking parents are in debt. But this assumption to get rid of DEI is the assumption that like it's unfair because everybody starts equal. So by giving help to people on DEI, you're it's unfair to everybody else.
it's part of the neoliberal myth that in the society in which we live in, everyone is an entrepreneur of their own social destiny. And whatever
Exactly.
skill set that you're born with, whatever way you're able to use what you got, what was handed to you, you make it based on your
Exactly.
potential, right?
Exactly.
So
Unless you fucked
assuming,
up, it's your fault.
yeah,
Like you're lazy, dude. Like you
yeah,
didn't fucking, yeah. And that's why they want to get rid of like slavery, education and slavery. And it's like we're past that, man. Like that shit doesn't affect anyone anymore. Like we don't even need to talk about it.
Now I have another question. Do you guys think that the dismantling, say, or the removal of DEI, do you think there was people who ruined it for
no,
those who were really
No,
not?
man,
No.
no. I'm
no,
saying there is no negative to DEI. There's only
yeah,
upside. There's nothing wrong with it.
yeah.
Nothing. And the example that you guys gave is a real world example that it was offered to everyone. Everyone could use it. But only the people that really needed it are the ones that showed up because all these other foods they already have it. So it's just leveling the playing field. And also we want to live in a country and society where like I want to help my fellow man. Like you come up with me too. Like we should all get the apple, no? Like what I feel
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
bad
yeah.
that like some people think like nah, nope, only I should get that. But what the
Well,
fuck?
it's that competitive spirit.
Yeah, that's
So it's also part of like horizontal violence, right? Like the fact tozer, don't take this personal that you,
Not like this, but like this.
yeah, horizontal. Like instead of getting together, understanding who your common oppressor is, who's really screwing you up, and charging or acting vertically to has like the boot on your head, you're busy fucking fighting each other, right? And that's a classic example of how we are kept in the same situation.
Uh-huh.
Classic example of how we're kept as a bewildered herd.
Yeah.
All right, so now we talked about equity a lot, right? Now let's talk about the other couple ones. Because I'm realizing right now inclusion and
I mean,
diversity,
that's
like
a no brainer. You don't want people who have wheelchairs or who have challenges in mobility working for you.
yeah,
Well, you know
that
what?
one's crazy, man.
You
What
know
the?
what? Something that my wife pointed out the other day, and I was like, "Wow, that's true." We were watching just a Mexican channel, and they always have ASL, well, or MSL, not Mexican Sign Language, and we were saying, "Wow, how come we don't have that for like State of the Unions or just random TV shows like news over there in Mexico? They have sign language." And then it's not something that you pick like, oh, I got in an accident, I can't hear. No, like people are born deaf. And I was like, wow, ASL, it should be something very standard. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow,
Or like
that's
when you watch TV shows, like there's the closed caption. I sometimes I watch it with like the closed caption. And then like let's say there's like music like ominous music, it will say in parentheses like ominous music. Because so my point is like for that example, how the hell does that hurt you? Just if you don't need it, turn it off.
It's it's called fascism, right? And this is something that I think is important that we start having a conversation here in this in this country and accepting the fact that we have a government that has shown clear fascist tendencies, right? Let's go back to fucking Germany during World War II and what Hitler was saying his ideal race of people were, right? Blonde, tall, athletic,
Yeah,
fit,
so like with
smart.
these guys,
Yeah. You know,
there's
if you're
something wrong with them.
illegal, if you have some type of fucking disease and are part of the cult of the Jehovah's, off to the gas chamber. Because we're trying to make the ultimate race here. And I think that the people in power today identify with those sentiments either quietly or out loud.
See, my argument against that is and you guys know, right? I'm an engineer. I construct buildings. So we have the building code, and the building code has both federal and state. We call them ADA, which is basically accessibility laws. So yeah, and they always have a presentation before we start a project on like why it's important, not just for like people with disabilities, but for everyone. And the argument is that people with disabilities is the largest DEI class in existence. Not only that, but chances are like 90% chance that you will one day become part of that class. Either through injury or old age, you will become part of that class. So yeah, maybe you don't benefit from right now, but you will in the future when you're fucking like, disabled. So and it's good for everyone. Like the doors, like they just have to be wider.
yeah,
That shit helps everybody.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
understand like how does taking it away help you out?
yeah. I mean, I don't
There's no
either.
argument, Hoser, for taking away
No, not
DEI
no, no,
accessibility. Nothing.
no, no. And I'm not trying to make an argument against it. It's just, you know, it's actually funny that I kind of mentioned that the last statement I made, but because that's kind of like a common statement you know, that's made like, oh, like, what about so and so who do this, right? Who take advantage of it. But yeah, I agree. Inclusion.
So yeah, that was the next thing I was gonna talk about. Is I just realized that dude, we're all three dudes and we're like Latinos, right? I was definitely thinking like, yeah, we should probably invite like get a woman female perspective.
A female
Yeah,
presence,
for
yeah.
sure, man. Because
No,
it
I
changes
agree.
the dynamic. Like it just makes it more interesting. You learn more from seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of studies that show like you'll get the best product if you bring in a different perspective.
Oh yeah,
Like I
yeah,
remember my exes, they work in like establishing like a fingerprint technology, and obviously it's an engineering company, so there's a lot more males. So as they were they call it user testing. They were using like the people that were there, dude. When they started using it on women, because they were like all their tests were done on men, like it was like what the fuck is not working? Like they had way more issues, and had they just had more women, like it would have fucking solved that. So now they got to spend a bunch of money on like fixing it because 50% of the population is women. So you are gonna get, you know, they're a huge group, so they should be represented.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing like fuck yeah, we got to make our shit more diverse. We should put out a call for like whoever wants to join
We
our podcast.
we need diversity here.
Whoa. Slow down.
It's not enough to just have Carlos.
Wrap
To
it up.
kind of bring it back to the title, right? The group's name, the Bewildered Herd. How does it fit with that term, Carlos?
Or what can we do?
Mhm.
What should we do?
I think programs like, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, you start to get less bewildered individuals within the herd that start taking like a homogeneous shared path that they agreed on via communication. And you start getting some outliers in your herd that are starting to leave the corral. And you want to very much not have that happening if you want to have an orderly and controllable herd. And so what do? You start seeing those fucking outliers in your herd that are starting to move differently to better themselves. You fucking get an electric rod and you fucking tase them with it and you get them back in line. So I think, you know, metaphorically,
Talking about 1984, the fucking
yeah,
that were like getting a little too smart.
you have to come down hard on them. And so you start taking away the resources that allow
Wait, not yeah, Animal Farm. My bad, dude. Not 1984.
Animal Farm. Yeah, they're both highly recommended. 1984 and Animal Farm by George Orwell. It gives you a very good lens from which to interpret what's happening nowadays reading fiction. But just to summarize it, by removing these programs like DEIA, you're essentially limiting the tools that people can use to advance their careers, their thirst for knowledge, their integration into groups of society that they would find meaningful to participate in. And you're just keeping them bewildered. You being the oligarch, right?
Yeah, and I would even go further that this is gonna have like really bad repercussions for everybody moving forward. Like as a country, I think we're gonna start declining, dude.
Yeah, so we're not going to be the leading edge in science anymore, for example. It's going to be
Exactly.
China.
Yep. So how does this affect like other people negatively? Is that like you're gonna start seeing the decline and the consequences of what happens when you get rid of the
You get shit like DeepSeek being way better than ChatGPT for a
yeah.
fraction of the cost.
You get shit like I told you, like the fingerprint doesn't work. It's just like it only works for fucking dudes. But China or whoever has DEI, like their shit's gonna work for everybody, so they're gonna make more money. It has real consequences, man. But what I would say is,
Start learning Mandarin.
look at your herd, and then like if your herd looks too much alike, like yeah, you should probably diversify a little bit. You can start with your own herd. I think we're all like bewildered herd people, and technically, like, dude, I think we're all fucking in the same boat. Yeah, like Carlos said, the narrative is like we're fighting each other, but we're all like part of the same herd. Realize who is your true oppressor and like who you should really be fighting. Take a deep look at your own herd. Hoser.
Comments, Hoser?
Those programs are needed. I think they're important. I think they help. However, I feel that
Yeah, I had some I felt hesitancy from Hoser a little bit.
no,
Well,
it's
you
not
think you're
hesitant. It's not hesitancy about the program. Like, cause like I said, I took advantage of it. I mean, you
you
know,
benefited.
I benefited from it. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, 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 sorry. I think maybe for the general masses, like, because Carlos talked horizontal violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a horizontal, there's a herd. I think there's still need, even if these programs were still active or not active, there's still need of education in those terms. I mean, come on, think about it. Right now, you guys just corrected me because I used advantage instead of benefited, right? I'm an educated quote unquote engineer, and I used the wrong word choice, right? Meaning, meaning, if an engineer who is kind of highly respected in this country doesn't know how to express himself about these topics, imagine those who you guys consider
But
a
like
common folk.
uneducated.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? To have
What I'm saying, hold on. This is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I think even though these programs are out, I think they should still be talked about. I think they don't need to be lost just because federal funding is out, right? But I think they can still be talked about. I think they can still be talked amongst like us
so
and
you're
still
saying
be.
like to reinvent it, but use like DI is triggering, so use something else or
No, I think education is still important in that. I think universities are going to do it, right? The conversation about
yeah. But you brought up funding, like
it
the
cannot
shit I
stop.
talked about in the beginning, right? Like the
Yeah,
loss of funding.
like because you started saying, how do you guys feel about that's being taken away?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, it sucks, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean that it's over. So all done. Let's never talk about it again. We can still keep it alive, right? We can still tell people like, hey, you know, yeah, we don't. There's no federal funding for it, but let me tell you how I benefited from this. How working on it with an equity program, you know, like, helped me. Especially you, Edgar. You are so really into like education, right? I think there's a lot of people who are very misinformed about the DEI concept. And I think this is like during this season, it's our time to maybe do that. I don't think fire for fire, fighting it will get you anywhere. It's just gonna get people angry and it's gonna go for eye to an eye.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
if you
Yeah.
want that, I mean go for it, but then don't complain that nothing came out the way you wanted
Yeah,
it.
if you double down, yeah, I know what you're saying, Jose. Like if you double down and like isolate this other group that thinks it's bad, then it's just gonna like fucking trigger them even more, right? So you're saying like we gotta accommodate somehow. I don't know. I don't know how, but I know what you're saying.
I wanted to say
I
two things. Like one, Hoser, you made a comment about us being educated, having degrees and whatnot, and other people having maybe more difficulties understanding whatever. I just want to say that the higher your grade of education, the more deeply indoctrinated you are with the values of the corporation and the state, and the more docile of a worker you become.
I disagree with that.
I've seen that firsthand
I highly disagree with that.
with how the leadership in my how my benefactors have changed their behavior with this new administration. Right, that's what I say. And then the second thing, the fighting fire with fire. Yeah, I kind of see your hesitancy, but the material reality is that the funding for these programs for the next foreseeable 4 years is out the window. Right, that's the material reality. And so I'm saying fight fire with fire by just being honest, by stating why these people found these programs threatening, why they cut them, what their priorities are, and where does that leave us? What do we do as a consequence? Fighting fire with fire to me would be to start an honest conversation about the nature of the ruling class here with an eye towards how we got here in the past and knowing where we want to go.
I can get behind that a little bit. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
it's a
the
conversation, it's a dialogue, right?
education thing, that'll be another topic. But I disagree with Carlos on that one. See, we don't all agree on the same shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make it a topic because I'm so fucking sure that the more educated you are, the more indoctrinated you are with the values of the system.
Really, dude. My solution to like if I were to become president, like education would be number one. Like that will solve, in my opinion, will solve everything if
I
people
don't
were
think
educated.
I think it'll create. Well, I guess maybe that's with Carlos' point. I think it will create more discrepancies, more divide.
If we were all educated,
Because there's gonna be some people who said, "I got dude
yeah, shit.
already with people like I went to UCLA." Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, well I went to Berkeley. Like you see that. This I think we
Like
love
that would
that
be
as
weaponized
human
even more.
beings. As human beings, we like that. We want to feel better than other people. That's how we are.
So is that why we should get rid of? Is that why you think people want to get rid of DEI? Like we just naturally fucking fuck this guy. Like
Yeah,
I want to be number one, so don't even help that guy. Especially because he's
in a
fucking.
way,
They
in a
look like the
way.
immigrants that are coming in. They look like those guys, right? The
In
enemy.
a way, yeah, because sometimes there's people who it's like the debt thing, right? It's like removing the student loan thing.
Yeah,
Like
I
some
know that
like some
doesn't hurt you, right?
like
But like,
like some of
fuck
these
those
people are like,
guys.
how dare they? I paid all my
Yeah,
student loans in 164 months,
that's a really good point,
and
dude.
it's kind of like, well, thank
But
you, good
okay, but
job, you have financial.
you think it's in our nature
I think it's
or
in our nature.
really?
Yeah.
I think it's encouraged, man. I think it's horizontal violence. I think it's horizontal violence.
I think it's where you live.
To.
I
I
think if
also
we were
think
in Japan, they would be like, "Fuck yeah, that's a good idea. Help my fellow friend." I think it's not nature. I think it's nurture.
What are you talking about, Japan, man? They're fucking honorary
But
whites, like World War II fascist empire invading. Like they're not. I haven't been. I shouldn't be talking.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Yeah, if you're Japanese, it doesn't matter what kind of Japanese. As long as you're Japanese, then yeah.
to a certain point, I do agree with Carlos that it is encouraged, but I think it's encouraged because they know that in our nature, we're like,
I disagree with you. It's nurture.
Yeah, yeah. See, I think that generally we're born to be good people, and we're
I
born to
agree.
care about.
Yep.
oh, I agree with that.
I think
You
that the
disagree with that?
constraints of the
No, I
system
disagree with that.
All right, that's
that
another.
that they impose upon us places us or makes us place ourselves first, and then everything else. Right? Edgar has a kid. Edgar's priority is his kid, and then anything else could roll on after that. Right? But if we live differently, in which Edgar knew that his kid was taken care of by a tribe, that there was some economic redundancy there, then that would give Edgar a little bit more of space to, whatever
Comfort.
you want to do, pay the
Yeah,
town rent or whatever.
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, but where I live now, it's like what were we talking about? It's like, you know, yeah, I can't lose my insurance, dude. So fuck you guys. I'll do whatever it takes to to my kid comes first because of where we live. It just forces you to.
That's what I think, changes us to act in a certain way, putting our needs, our necessities before others.
All right, man. This is all depressing. So what the hell can we do to?
No, let's go back to the DEI, right? I mean, right?
Okay, huh?
And one, imposter syndrome, right? I think we all experience imposter syndrome. I think we're still facing with that. I think that's going to be something that probably is going to follow us, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my credentials on the wall to remind me, like, yeah, I belong here.
Yeah. Whatever helps you. But I think it's just a battle within yourself you're always going to have to do.
Like the example you guys gave is yeah, these programs exist, the DEI ones, and yeah, there's federal funding got cut or whatever, but maybe there's still like state funding, right? They're still gonna exist, but not everybody takes advantage of them or benefits from them, right? Like they don't actually go to it or whatever. So if it's being offered, like now you should be considered even lucky to have it. So definitely go to it, like for sure.
Exactly.
If you have
Yeah.
it, like do it, go to it for sure, because you can see from our example, like it helped, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, yeah, like you said with DEI, I think we agreed that, it was unfortunate and they took it out, right?
But if if it still exists,
But
then
if,
take advantage of it.
exactly,
Use it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that kind of summarizes this episode. We also touch other topics, which are going to be good ones for, I think, the future. So, all right, y'all.
All right, guys.
So I think that's a wrap for this episode. Guys, thank you for this conversation. It was good. It was good. And we'll see each other next week with Carlos and his topic.
All right,
Pleasure talking to you, always, friends.
countrymen, Romans.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, y'all. Peace.